I feel like, a lot of the offline spend is, already gone online. It's going to be incremental from here after COVID and such. So what are you guys' thoughts on that kind of last line there, the opinion he has?
Want me to go first?
Go for it, Noah.
I think that there are risks associated with getting onto a marketplace like Temu. I think there's risks associated with Amazon. There's risks associated with business, right? That's never going to go away. I think the bigger thing is the risk of whether or not getting onto a certain marketplace such as Temu is really going to be worth it in the end, which I don't see it as being worth it, at least right now. I think it's still too new. If we're probably looking from like an actual dollar percentage amount like Temu versus Amazon, it's just not going to be a comparable amount in the slightest. I mean, Amazon still owns roughly 40% of all e-commerce sales in the United States at the very least, and so it's not going to happen anytime soon. It's kind of my thought.
Yeah. Yeah. I always like competition, and, maybe Temu will be competition at some point. I mean, they are, but it would be nice to see them open up their platform and be more like an Amazon platform and add to the competition, just so sellers did have more choices, regardless that they're based in China. Competition is still good, and it helps hold Amazon accountable for what they're doing. And if Temu can have, open up and have lower fees than Amazon, then that puts pressure on Amazon to lower their fees. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our next article here. This one is right in your ballpark, Ritu, as the AI person on the show. You talk about AI quite a bit in different summits and such. So the days of price gouging are over, says Andrew Bell. Now, customers now have proof with Rufus. Amazon's Rufus AI assistant now provides shoppers with 90 days of price history, giving them visibility into past pricing and real discounts. This means customers can easily detect price gouging, making transparency more critical than ever for sellers. For Amazon sellers, adapting to this change means focusing on competitive, trust-driven price strategies to maintain sales and customer loyalty. Those who embrace honest pricing will be in the best position to thrive in this new era of e-commerce transparency. So we can dive into this and talk about this pricing graph, but I'd also like to hear your guys' thoughts on the overall effect that Rufus has and the AI in general on the Amazon platform. So Ritu, go ahead. I'll let you dive into it here.
Yeah, so my thoughts on Rufus are that, right now Rufus is like this little button that's kind of tucked away, on the menu bar, and sometimes you see glimpses of it, sprinkled in to the product detail page. And its presence isn't known widely or felt yet by shoppers. Like they know that it's kind of like suggestions are made from time to time. But if you ask someone, a shopper, like, do you know about Rufus? They probably don't know. And in fact, I was having this conversation just yesterday with someone, and this person says, "So what is Rufus? Like, where, I shop a lot on Amazon. I've never seen Rufus. What is it?" So, I mean, I showed it to him. I said, "Okay, you click on this button, and then this thing comes up." And like, we who are in the Amazon seller community, we're more focused on Rufus and the Q&A, and we're trying to extract prompts. We've actually built tools to extract those prompts and then do stuff with it, et cetera, et cetera. But most shoppers don't know anything about it. But that doesn't mean that it's not scary. It is, because all it would take is for Amazon to make this interface more mainstream. Like if the search results or the search bar was to be tweaked or re-engineered in any way that just makes it like have a conversation with your AI assistant right here, and that becomes the norm, then like overnight it would affect everything because Rufus gets to be the gatekeeper. That's how I'm looking at Rufus right now. Rufus gets to be the gatekeeper of what's shown, what's not shown. Even this price history, what I've been noticing in all the scraping that we're doing is that it does show up sometimes, but in some cases it doesn't. So it's up to Rufus. If it runs out of things to say, then it starts showing price history and stuff like that. I mean, it could become more like prominent, but at the moment it sits at the bottom of at least 10 questions. It's not the very first thing that's shown. It's probably that Andrew has been clicking on this for a while. So, and I do think that Rufus has like deep product knowledge, and it knows everything about not only how you describe your product and how your images describe the product, but also everything that people say about your product, not only on the Amazon platform, but outside as well. So it's picking up signals from everywhere, and it knows everything. So there is no hiding. That's basically the point of Andrew's post here, that there is no hiding. You've got to be more genuine. This is what's going to force that genuine how you show up on Amazon. So anything we do from here on kind of needs to keep that in mind, because Santa Claus is watching, Rufus is watching, and taking note of everything, including the price changes over time, and may come back and bite you in the butt if you're not careful.
Yeah, it's the history price graph. I mean, honestly, Amazon should probably just put that on every listing. I try to shop on my desktop as much as possible, just so that I can look at the Keepa graph and see, make sure I'm not paying a super high price at the moment, or should I wait a little while and see if the price goes down, if it has lots of fluctuations, So I've done that with the Keepa graph for a long time. So it's nice that they're showing this, but yeah, you're definitely right, Ritu. Very few people are probably using it at the moment. And as he shows there, you very have to specifically say show price history. And, if you remember the days of DOS and using a computer on DOS, not very many people use DOS because nobody wanted to remember commands. So what do you think, Noah?
I gotta agree with Ritu, especially in the idea of people not knowing that it exists. It's so interesting because things like this that come out for platforms like Amazon, I think all three of us being within the Amazon ecosystem, it's what we eat, breathe, live every single day. We see these, right? We see Rufus, we see these changes. We try and take note of how they're going to affect sellers, while simultaneously how they're going to affect the industry. Andrew's post is great about the idea of like showing different pricing discrepancies, things like that. The reality of it is, though, if you probably run a poll of any kind, actually, I might just run one while we're doing this, but if you run a poll of any kind, I bet the large majority of people within, who aren't in the Amazon space, who are just consumers, probably don't even know Rufus exists. And if they do know that it exists, they don't know the extent of using it in this capacity, right? You show somebody, somebody just asking a question, it's so easy. Show price history, for instance, is not a question that the average consumer is going to be using Rufus for. It's not. I think this is super interesting and like a tool that can be utilized outside of something like Keepa, right? Which I don't know why you would, because this is a free version, a free thing that you can get from Keepa. But either way, I think that's interesting from a seller perspective. But I think from a buyer perspective, how many people know that Rufus exists? How many of them use it actively to shop right now? We're still very much in the beginning stages of AI in general. And I think Rufus is, for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much a chatbot. Realistically, right? That's kind of just built into Amazon system. It has some Amazon custom functionality, but it really just, for average consumer, I think isn't going to be all that much of a difference. Maybe for more tech savvy ones.
I agree. Right now, it's not something that most people are going to be using. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, for sure, that's going to be a complete different story. But we're still in such an early stage with AI. It's kind of like the internet. It took a while for the internet and people to get comfortable using the computer to buy products online and stuff before it really took off. I think AI is going to be a lot faster because it's going to make things simpler. A really good application is the AI summaries of the reviews. I mean, I've started using that all the time on products that I buy. That's one of the first things I go down to read what the summary of the reviews show to get a better idea. So things like that are really helpful. A graph like this in the Rufus prompt is, it's fine. It's good that it's there, but the usage is going to be really low. I think the better usage would be, having that graph when you hover over the price or something like that, so that consumers can see, have a little link that says price history. And when they put their mouse on it or touch it, tap it, I guess, on the phone, it brings up a price history chart or something.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I think there was a comment that just flashed by, and I agree that price history, the show price history, is actually a prompt that is displayed by default. It's not something that you have to type out. It's
Okay.
probably that Andrew actually clicked on it, and that's how he got. So he's saying that it shows up every 1 to 3, almost every 1 to 3. Yeah, I mean, it also depends on where you're searching from, and each person's Rufus is gonna interact in a slightly different way as well. But I agree. So that's something that Amazon is trying to modularize, which means that your idea, Todd, could very well be a manifestation of how this actually shows up. The show price history might actually, that part of Rufus might actually be split out into where it's supposed to be, which is where people are actually looking for the price. I mean, the proximity matters, and that's where they're probably going to split all of these prompts out. They're probably going to sprinkle all of these prompts out the way they've already started doing, right? So there's a couple places where these prompts show up. Number one, they show up in autocomplete. So the last 3 of the autocomplete nowadays, especially if you have a broad term, they will be Rufus, right? Then right under the image, there's often like 3 or 4 prompts that are just embedded in the page flow, so you can actually see them. You won't miss them. It's not something like is hidden in a pop-up or anything like that. But essentially, all of Rufus's functionality will be modularized, split out. That's my prediction. That it's going to be showing up where it needs to be, and I think things are headed in that direction. So that's one. The second is that I think we're headed into an age of conversational shopping, because like, for example, the big shift that happened for me last year was that I stopped using Google for most things. Like, I'm asking chat, I'm asking based on a bunch of different things that are not just keyword based, right? So that conversational research or whatever has already happened for a lot of people, and that's a behavior shift that Amazon is capitalizing through this. Now, when that gains some momentum, it will be easy for them to simply swap out their search bar with a conversation. It just starts with a conversation. What are you looking for today, type of thing, and it would be put as many words as you like into that bar, and we'll figure it out and we'll show you. So that's why I'm saying that Rufus gets to be the gatekeeper, because whatever you have trained Rufus on through your historical changes that you make on your listing, et cetera, are all absorbed and noticed, and will be used for or against you.
Yeah, I would agree 100% that eventually Rufus will just be incorporated into the search bar, because I'm the same way. I mean, I use Grok for just about everything. Grok and ChatGPT, they're each are better at some things than the other. But I find myself routinely, like if I do a search for something, I end up just getting frustrated and jump over to Grok and ask the question there, and you get it immediately. So yeah, I could definitely see, and Amazon's got a giant platform. So if they're able to integrate their AI right into that search bar and have that massive audience start using their AI and have it actually work properly, that'll be important, of course. But yeah, it could be a huge opportunity for Amazon, even over like Google, right? Because Google struggles with incorporating AI into their search results because they don't want to cannibalize their ads and things like that. But Amazon could totally do a better job than Google can, or easier job, I should say, of incorporating it and not losing the ad sales and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, talking of ads, Rufus is very much showing ads in the flow, right? I'm seeing ads. I think at one of Andrew's posts or somewhere he's mentioned that he actually saw a video ad also in inside of the Rufus chatbot. So that's, Amazon will protect their ad revenue for sure, given how well they did in Q4.
Absolutely. And Ritu, earlier you said you had something you wanted to share on Rufus. Did you still have that, or?
Oh, well, it was just an application that I wanted to share. I mean, I can do that right now. So let me share my screen. And I was just trying to show, the whole idea of being prepared for what's to come. And I don't know if you see it, that I had kind of reimagined the search bar, and right now it's just these two guys, right? It's just the last three questions that are Rufus, but this would be the whole thing would be Rufus. That was
Mhm.
one that I wanted to show, and the other one is just being able to extract all of these Q&A or the prompts that Rufus has here. We kind of built these little tools that extract everything. So this kind of is a way to say that, hey, first of all, get familiar with what Rufus is showing right now,
Mhm.
and make sure that you have preparedness, like you're ready for whatever questions it's prompting. You need to have those answers in your listing already, like already as in yesterday, because this change is happening so fast that it could be the next couple of months when we see the dramatic shift from Rufus just being in some parts to Rufus being everywhere. In fact, Rufus knows your previous history as a shopper. So what's stopping Amazon from sprinkling in, hey, want to go back to that thing you were looking for the other day, kind of thing, like a
Yeah.
remarketing effort with a Rufus prompt that sits around somewhere or it just pops up. They're so good at recommendations, and so it could just be sprinkled out in many, many places. So yeah, that was
Mhm.
I
that
have
was the only thing
something
I wanted to
I
quickly
have
say.
something super
Yeah.
interesting to show you guys.
Go
So
for it.
while we were going through all this, I decided to run a little pick-fu poll,
Okay.
open-ended, and whatnot. So let's see here. So asked the simple question: have you used Rufus on Amazon before? And we're still getting some data in here, but so far it's no, never heard of it, never heard of Rufus. No, I've never heard. I've used it once. I sort of like, but it's inefficient, basically. No, never heard of it. Never heard, haven't heard of it before. So I
Yep.
think this, I mean, very small demographic so far for the pick fu poll, but very much, I think, showing what we had initially kind of talked about here of
Mhm.
very unlikely that the general consumer even knows Rufus exists
Knows.
or uses it. I
Right.
think, it's just, it's in beginning stages, I think, is the biggest thing, right?
Yeah, and it's definitely going to change your SEO for your listing, right? Because you already see it in search terms. Somebody searching for what is the best dog bed. People search for that, but right now the search results are not really tailored for that. But
Amazon's
it
bad
would
at it.
be it'd be much better if you're shopping as a consumer and you can write, what is the best dog bed for my 3-year-old pit bull mix? And
Yes.
Rufus is able to go out and look at the reviews, look at the details, look at the images, and bring back listings that are actually, the right size dog bed for an average pit bull and things like that.
Totally agree. Yeah, and that's coming. I think it's so real what you just described, being able to say that, and that's what conversational shopping is all about, like conversational e-commerce, right? That's basically what it is. Yeah.
And that's really what most e-commerce shoppers still use Google for, right? Because you can't really do that on Amazon. So you jump over to
Yeah.
Google and say, what's the best dog bed for a pit
Yeah.
bull? And then you find some articles and you read it and it links you over to Amazon. And so
There you go.
that's just another place that Amazon will lose search traffic once Amazon starts integrating that.
The one AI I like for shopping is Perplexity. I actually use that one quite often because they have the shopping now integrated into the AI for a lot of different websites and whatnot. And so I use that one quite frequently, where I'll just ask what is the best version of X product and Y, and it'll give me 5 different products. Here's where you can buy it, how you can buy it, why it's the best, so on and so forth. So Perplexity is probably the furthest ahead as far as like consumer shopping goes. The issue being that hardly anyone uses Perplexity right now because it's just they don't have much marketing or backing, right? So
are they connected into Amazon though? I don't think they include Amazon results.
So yeah, no, they didn't used to, but now they do. So you can now get Amazon links, you can get Walmart links, but it honestly, for like electronics, it heavily favors things like Best Buy for electronics and Newegg, right, over something like Amazon. So I think it takes that into account of like, where are these products being purchased, right? And I think that's usually how it does it, whether it's lowest price, who knows.
Okay, very good.
That's good to know.
Well, we have a couple comments here. I'll throw up this one first. Royce one, just on our first article, he says Temu prices increased in the past few months. I don't shop there, so I don't know for sure, but take your word for it, Royce. But then he also says last year Temu took 30% in market share from Amazon, and I'm not sure. I think I read something along those lines of numbers that they increased their share that much. I'm not sure if it was all from Amazon, but it was probably from multiple sources.
I was going to say taking 30%, because Amazon market share in 2024 was roughly 40%. So I don't know how they would possibly take 30% market share from Amazon, right?
Yeah. I think it's just, if I remember right, it was 20 something percent of the market that Temu had taken or something like that in the US. I don't know if that number is accurate or not.
I don't think it could be, because I mean, for reference, the next closest one is all of Shopify stores, and that's at, I believe, 10.6% of total market share. So it goes Amazon, which is between 37 and 40, and then Shopify as a whole at 10.6, and then Walmart was at 6.7, I think, last time I checked. I guess we'll have to wait for the 2024 Statista to come out and tell us.
Yeah. So maybe it was like a 30% growth. So I asked Grok real quick, and it says Temu holds approximately 17% of the market share within the discount store category in the USA.
There we go. See, that's a very specific area to be talking about, the discount store category.
Yep. So maybe they grew by 30%. That might be a correct number, but it's hard to say. We had this comment here as well for you, Ritu. I'm not sure if you can answer that one for our person over on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, it doesn't.
Yes. Yeah, you can extract. So I'm not sure what QAC is, but SERP and PDP. Can you say what QAC? Do you guys know what QAC is?
I do not.
SERP, I get.
My head.
PDP, yes. So it can extract from SERP and PDP as well, but I don't know what QAC is. So
supposedly query auto completion.
Oh, auto completion? No. There used to be an API that would give us autocomplete, but Amazon shut that down about 2 years ago. It was a really good way of just typing any word and getting the whole list of the top 10 autocompletes, and that API has
Mhm.
been shut down. So unfortunately, I don't have that. But in theory, given that, if there's a human sitting there and starts to type out stuff, and
Mhm.
then whatever gets populated in that drop down, and the drop down is visible, then it gets, in theory, it should get loaded into the DOM, which is your page, the browser page's backend. And so if, I've been able to extract it from SERP and PDP, so in theory, the autocomplete should also be possible, but that's a good idea, and I'll explore
Mhm.
it and maybe share it on LinkedIn um, when I get a chance.
All right, sounds good. Let's see. Couple other questions here. My brother-in-law and wife have used and bought stuff with it and love the items. Caveat, they asked me to give prompts to help them find what they want. So he must be talking about Rufus,
Yeah.
that his brother-in-law and wife have used it to buy stuff. So that's good. I'm sure people are using it, and that's, Amazon's collecting data and trying to
Mm.
improve it. And over time here, we'll see it blow up and come into everything, I imagine. But all right, let's go ahead and move on to the next story here. What happened? There it is. So, Amazon's international markets, should sellers expand or focus on the US? So, according to Scott Needham, Amazon doesn't disclose revenue for individual international markets, but collectively they represent a significant portion of sale. While expanding globally, especially in Europe and Japan, can offer new opportunities, and regulatory challenges and language barriers make it complex. For Amazon seller, the key question is whether to diversify into smaller markets or not. So that's definitely a question. But what I really liked here is, or surprised me, I should say, is that Japan has moved into second place, at least in Smart Scout's numbers. So he says that Smart Scout scanned the top millions of products, and this is the market size that they got. So this may differ a little bit from what others have put it out there, because most people put Germany, I believe, in second. But according to Smart Scout's data, Japan is in second place at 55 billion.
I'd be curious on this. I think this is huge if it's true. Also, just from a population perspective, right? Because I mean, realistically speaking, seeing Amazon blow up as much as it has in Japan would be, uh, really, really big overall. I mean, Japan is, a huge market to tap into on top of the fact of, Germany. A large reason that is or has been number two is because it can fulfill to so many of the European countries, whereas Japan, it's not, right? It's just Japan. So the fact that a single realistic country has kind of overtaken into spot two is really, really big. I would expect Japan to continue over the next few years growing. I would imagine it probably caps out somewhere in the range of 150 billion, just from population size and ability to actually overtake market. It's more interesting to me because I would love to see the comparison of how large the Amazon Japan market is to other vendors with inside Japan, right? So what percentage of the overall Japanese market does Amazon own for e-commerce at this point? And like how much more does it have to grow? But it is really cool to see this just from that aspect of alone for years, Germany has been number two, if not United Kingdom, right?
So to answer a couple of your questions there, before we started, I mentioned that I just did a podcast with Gary Huang about selling on Amazon Japan. And he was saying that Amazon is the number one e-commerce platform that the Japanese people like to use. So it's definitely growing quickly. The population of Japan is about 36% of the population of the United States. So you were very close, Noah, because if they got 36% of the size of the U.S. market, you'd be at $155.88 billion in sales. So right now they're only at about 12%, 13%, but it looks like they're growing quick.
Look, am I ever going to get an exact number on the dot? Probably not. But do I know sub 5% of most numbers? I think I can usually get there.
There we go. What are your thoughts, Ritu?
Yeah, so yeah, I used to live in Japan. I lived there for 17 years, so I kind of I've seen kind of Amazon grow slowly and take over Rakuten. So the takeover actually happened in the middle of the pandemic. Before that, Amazon was smaller than Rakuten. And funny enough, both Rakuten and Amazon were established at nearly the same time in the late 90s. So they've been around for 25 years or so. And this shift actually happened because of their logistics and just how, during the pandemic, they were the ones that kind of won a lot of market share because it was easy for the people to order from the comfort of their homes and were able to get packets very quickly and so on. So that's when Amazon started becoming big. But the thing is, there's a certain category or set of categories that sell better on Amazon than on Rakuten. So Rakuten happens to be more attractive to the older demographic because it's a native platform. It's a Japanese platform, and so there's a bigger kind of trust value associated with Rakuten, and it's not going anywhere. Like when you want to buy something high quality or more expensive, you go to Rakuten. You don't go to Amazon. Amazon is kind of mentally reserved for sub $50 type of purchases. And by the way, Japan and China are kind of very close in their trade relations, and Japanese people do not mind buying Chinese products. In fact, the dollar store Daiso is like everywhere, and it's basically very popular. Most small items are purchased at that dollar store. However, another trend that's happened recently is around the younger generation, so the Gen Zs and the millennials. They have their own platforms, and it's crazy how some of those people they are invisible on Amazon. They don't buy on Amazon at all because they have their own kind of Gen Z stores, and and there's so many of them, like 10, 15. So it depends on who you're targeting. And given that Japan's population tends to be older, there's still that balance between Amazon and Rakuten. But as this, older generation starts to decline, there's going to be other channels as well that pick up, including Line, which is crazy how Line is integrated so well into everybody's lives in Japan. So yeah, it's just interesting that Japan actually moved up from number 4 to number 2 there in the data.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. I would say if anybody from Japan is listening to this, keep that split between Rakuten and Amazon. The competition is a good thing. We need more of that here in the United States. So definitely a good thing to see the competition.
Agree.
It's what are your guys' thoughts on selling in these other marketplaces versus doubling down in the United States?
It depends on how large you are, right? That's always going to be my biggest thing. I think going global is great for brands that, one, have the cash flow to afford it, and two, who are already kind of tapped out where they are, whichever marketplace they're in, right? Of course, you can always continue somewhat growing on Amazon for the most part, right? You can always become huge and really, really dig into the US market. But if you're have the cash flow and capability to expand into the global market, there's next to no reason not to, right? You're essentially just leaving sales or potential sales on the table, especially in this day and age. I mean, you can find an agency, you can find a consultant, a VA, anything, even if you don't know, even if you don't know the marketplace for someone else who does. If that makes sense. So always going to be something I encourage, but there is a certain level of, if you're failing within one market, try and make sure you're succeeding in that market before you move into another one.
Yep, for sure.
I agree. I agree with Noah that, you first, establish yourself in whatever market you are and then talk about or think about expanding. And there's an advantage to doing that because you're only kind of working once on your product and your listings, and you want to just maybe amortize that over several markets and take that advantage. There's two other little things that I wanted to mention. First of all, when it comes to, let's say, Japan, there's also the proximity to the supply chain. Like, how close are they? Typically, the lead times between Japan and China, so China and Japan, are, they can be as low as 2 weeks. So if you're going to be low on inventory, it's the distance between China and Japan is it helps with quick replenishment of goods.
Sure.
And that lead time alone can give you huge advantages when it comes to, like, just cash flow, just from a cash flow perspective, as well as just protecting yourself from inventory, stockouts and things like that. So depending on where you're sourcing, that's another reason for kind of thinking about these other markets. If you're sourcing from Asia, then yes, some Asian markets will make sense. If you're sourcing from India, then India might make sense. And the other thing would be the product type. Like, what types of products do you sell, and are they a good fit for these other markets or not? A lot of people don't do the right research into their product market fit, and then they kind of make that mistake of just jumping in and then realizing that it's not selling. So I think there's something to be said about that research upfront. I mean, we used to do product market fit analysis for for US brands wanting to expand to Japan, and it was amazing what kind of products we had to kind of audit. In some cases, those concepts don't exist in Japan. In some cases, those sizes won't fit in a house, or it's just a concept that you don't have, like a baby shower. There is no baby shower in Japan, so any products related to that big keyword or around that is not going to work. So I would say it's a little bit of like sourcing, as well as the category type as well when it comes to where you want to sell.
Yeah, one example that Gary gave on the podcast was if you sell anything related to cooking stuff in the oven, is not going to go well in Japan because they typically don't have ovens. So, that whole market pretty much gets exploded over there. So don't send your turkey roaster over to Japan and think that it's going to sell well over there. It's definitely not. But yeah, it's I like the idea of expanding into these other markets, but you have to look into all the complications and translations and things like that. And like you said, Noah, make sure you have your home market locked down, maximized, and then start looking at these other markets is probably the best solution.
Yeah, and category is always just going to play a huge part, like you said. Especially like supplement, that's always one that people have a horrible time with, primarily because the US market is much more available to be able to sell like whatever supplement you want. But most other World Health Organizations and everything restrict a lot of different supplements. So the amount of times I've heard someone say, my product is ineligible to be sold in Canada. What do I do? And I'm like, okay, what do you sell? And they're like, oh, XYZ supplement. I'm like, nothing, unless you want to try and start petitioning the Canadian Health Board to allow it to be sold there. Like, so it's one big thing you always have to think about is, what is your product type? What are you actually trying to sell? Is it even, relevant to other markets realistically?
Yep. Absolutely. All right, let's jump on to our last story here. Shine, Temu, and Amazon Haul face price hikes as U.S. ends trade loophole. So we've been talking about this for a long time, and it's finally happened. The removal of the de minimis exemption, which allowed low value packages from China to enter the U.S. duty free, is expected to raise prices for Shine, Temu, and Amazon Haul shoppers. This change comes as part of the President Trump's new tariffs, including a 10% duty on Chinese imports. While Amazon Haul may face challenges, analysts believe this shift could benefit Amazon's main marketplace as Temu and Shine lose their pricing advantage. Small and mid-sized online retailers that rely on Chinese suppliers will also feel the impact as they have fewer resources to absorb the increased costs. So in my, initial opinion, I think this is relatively a good thing just for I never like raising taxes, raising fees. I prefer the opposite, but at the same time, we got to make sure everybody's on an even playing field.
I'd agree. I don't, these marketplaces that sell super cheap products, I think have a very specific niche. Like, what was it you said earlier, Todd? Like, it's the discount products market. Like, it's such a specific niche. I honestly think, like, TikTok, for instance, TikTok Shop has somewhat played into it because, the way that TikTok Shop gained a ton of market share was specifically just by offering insane discounts. And the way that they're offering insane discounts is by them eating that cost, letting sellers pocket the full retail cost, and then the buyer pays a lesser fee. And it's that type of thing where that only works for so long, right? And all of these different, I think, there was one before Temu and Shein. There was not Wayfair, but there've been a million different types of these apps before. And
Wish.com.
Yes, Wish. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Wish.com.
There was Wish, and then there was like one other one, and that's the thing. They've been around for such a long time that I don't think they're gonna go anywhere necessarily. Things will get more expensive, but like, it's a very specific market that buys the products there, and the people that buy the products there, they know that they're not getting like the highest quality thing in the world, and they likely weren't going to purchase a high quality good to begin with, right? So it's like, how much of an effect will this have on overall? Probably not much, but it'll have something, I suppose.
Yeah. I can't imagine it's going to be, like a huge shift from Shine, Temu, and Amazon Haul over to Amazon.com or Walmart.com or something like that. Like you said, there might be a little bit of movement, but it's not going to make a huge difference, I don't think.
Probably not.
Yeah,
No.
I agree. Yeah, probably not. But for these companies, it's going to be a big, loss of revenue because they've already kind of, changed their, I think Temu was, their kind of page is like now shifted to just show products that are not made in China and, just the local products and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's gonna hurt their revenue for sure. But in terms of like how big of an impact it makes to the overall economy, it's probably gonna be small.
Yeah, the interesting number that I seen in here is that Temu and Shine together likely accounted for more than 30% of all packages shipped to the United States under the de minimis provisions. So huge amount of products coming in. Well, then down here they say nearly half of all packages shipped under the de minimis come from China. So yeah, that makes sense.
It also makes me wonder, though, if it's nearly half, where did the other 50% come from? Is that, are they coming from Mexico? Are they coming from Canada? Are they coming from, random other countries? Who knows? But like, that's something I would be curious to see what the numbers are there in general, just because, if it's like Canada, for instance, that could potentially hurt, a lot of like Canadian Amazon sellers who sell in the US with like remote fulfillment.
Yeah.
Is that affected here? I would imagine it is to an extent, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think this exemption was originally set up for, someone is sending you a package from Germany. You don't want that getting hit with tariffs, and that's what this was originally set up for. It was not set up for sending mass e-commerce orders through the loophole.
I mean,
Essentially,
it's been around since before e-commerce was really a thing, right? So,
yes,
Mhm.
it's like
Yeah.
one of those. Yeah, it kind of shaped the e-commerce marketscape, but
yeah. It's
not
more like,
exactly.
grandma from Germany is sending her great great grandson a Christmas gift or something, and we're not going to slap her with a duty fee for sending that $50 product over.
Yep.
So it's unfortunate that it got taken advantage of. I think it's good that it's closed. The 10% tariff that's on, we'll see where that goes and how long that lasts, or if it goes away, if it goes up. It's all going to depend. Trump tends to use these things as negotiating tools. So we'll see what happens, because we already seen the pause of Canada's and Mexico's tariffs that he threatened about. So the China one could potentially go away on that as well. But I think the loophole that Temu and Shine and Amazon Haul were using being closed is a good thing overall for everybody.
Yeah, great.
All right, let's see. We've got a few other questions coming in. Royce was asking, where is Rufus located on Amazon? I think it's only on the app, right?
Yeah.
And it's
It
in the
is.
bottom
It's all,
corner.
yeah.
Well, it's in the top left. There's a Rufus button on your menu bar on Amazon where it says, best, all the different categories, bestsellers, toys, games, etc. In the left, there's like this thing that says Rufus.
Okay.
I didn't even know that was there, and I just saw it now when you said that. I don't think Amazon's good at marketing this.
Yeah, no,
They will.
not so
That's
much.
the whole point. They will. They will at some point. Right now, they're just like being sneaky and quiet about it, but they're gathering data there.
Yeah, for sure. And
Real
then,
quick before we move forward, I do have to hop. I have a hard stop here. Thanks for
yeah,
having me on
no
today.
worries.
Glad to be here, and glad to get to chat with you guys and whatnot.
Absolutely. Yeah, for
I
sure.
know.
Good to see you.
Take care.
Talk
Thanks,
to you
guys.
later.
Good to see you.
Yeah, just we're wrapping up here. So just Wish was horrible. And then also the same products sell on Amazon that Temu sells, which is definitely true. A
Yes.
lot of times, though, unfortunately, those are knockoffs of the good version of those products on Amazon.
Right.
Not always the case,
Yeah.
but a lot of times that does happen. So, all right. Whoop, didn't mean to throw that up there again. Well, actually, that was a new question. So, how, as a seller, do you need to make sure Rufus recommends your products over others? Do you have anything
Yeah.
on that,
Yeah.
Ritu? And then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, this is what we're actually doing as an agency. We're helping sellers get their products ready and indexed within Rufus so that it can start to show you over others. And you need to basically make sure that you're extracting all of those prompts that are showing up on your listing. You can also extract prompts that are showing up on your competitors' listings so that you have everything that people are asking, and then you proactively answer those questions and get your listings ready for those questions. So that's probably the best tip I can give you at this point.
All right. Are you taking advantage at all, or seeing people do it where they're using the frequently asked questions, where you can type in the prompt there and ask a question, and then Amazon sends an email out for an answer? Are you having people do that and then answer it themselves?
No, no,
No.
yeah, we're mostly focused on organic action, so we're not kind of making people do those kind of Q&A, although I know that a lot of people do that, but we don't. So yeah.
Yeah. Rufus does pick up on those, though, right?
It does. It does. Rufus picks
Okay.
up on like everything on your listing, any kind of interaction on your listing, as well as outside of Amazon. That's the other thing. Like if you have any social media, you can be sure that Rufus is scraping everything that you're putting out there. So you can, if you're concerned about Rufus, then you have to start building your reputation everywhere, not just on Amazon.
Yeah, AI is the future. It's coming fast. If you're not already using it, definitely get into it, because in the next 5 years, it's going to be running everything that you touch, just about, at least online.
Yeah,
All
totally
right.
agree. Yeah.
Awesome. Ritu, this has been fun. I appreciate you coming on the show, and everybody out there
Yeah, it's been
watching.
fun.
Appreciate you guys as well.
Thanks so
Definitely
much,
have you
guys.
on again soon, Ritu. And we do this every
Looking
Friday
forward.
at 1 p.m. Eastern. So you have a great one.
Thank you. Take care. Bye, guys.